Welcome to the show, everybody. Get ready to dive into a concept that's absolutely fascinating, the higher self. You know how we talk about intuition or gut feelings? Well, this is like that, but think bigger, deeper. Picture this. There's a part of you, wise and in tune with your purpose, that always knows the best way forward.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you realize this concept pops up in so many spiritual traditions. From contemporary thought to, well, more esoteric philosophies. We're
Yeah.
talking about exploring sources like Edgar Casey's work on, channeling the higher self. And then we'll bring in Rudolf Steiner's anthroposophy, which is a totally different take.
That's quite a spectrum. So I'm curious, how do these different views see the higher self? Like, is there a common ground?
Many spiritual seekers and the folks we'll be diving into today are right there with them, see the higher self like an inner compass. It's always pointing you towards what's best for you.
So kind of like a built-in guidance system that we can learn to tap into. I like that. It's a great image. But what does that actually look like?
Imagine those times you're full of self-doubt or you're looking to others for approval. Those are like signs, right? Like you've disconnected from that internal compass and you're relying on outside voices instead of your own inner wisdom.
Yeah, exactly. And the best part is we've all got this inner compass inside us. And our sources, they point to some really interesting practices that can help us tune into it. Like meditation, it's not just about, relaxing. It's about quieting that constant mental chatter so your inner wisdom can actually bubble up to the surface.
Like switching to a different channel, one that's always on but gets drowned out by like the everyday noise.
Spot on. And you know how an instrument needs tuning to sound its best? Well, our energy systems can have these blocks, right? And those blocks might be messing with our connection to that clear guidance. That's where energy healing comes in, at least according to the sources we're looking at. It could help clear those blockages out so there's a stronger connection.
Okay, so we're creating space inside through things like meditation, but also tackling any energy blocks that might be there. Interesting. And hey, let's not forget about nature. Seriously, getting grounded in nature is huge. So many traditions, including the ones we're exploring now, they all say how important that connection to nature is. It's about getting back in touch with your true self, that part of you that's already linked to your higher self.
That really resonates with me. I mean, our lives are so dominated by technology these days. It's easy to feel detached from the natural world. Makes you wonder if that disconnect is part of why people feel lost or unsure of themselves. But I'm curious about the practical side of this. If our higher self is like this compass, how do we actually figure out what it's telling us?
That's where Natalie Restored's work comes in. She's an awakening activator and lightworker mentor. Basically, she helps people understand and step into their soul's purpose. Restored, she uses this analogy of the higher self being like a personal GPS.
Now we're talking. Everyone gets a GPS.
Right. And just like a GPS, she says your higher self knows where you've been, past experiences, maybe even past lives, according to her, and it can see the best way forward for you. Like it's this route that leads you straight to fulfilling your soul's purpose.
Okay, so it's like a GPS guiding us towards, like, fulfilling our soul's purpose.
Yeah.
But what about when we, get off track? Does it just keep recalculating in the background or something?
Well, Restored, she says it's more like those rerouting alerts we all know and maybe
Right.
kind of dread sometimes. Yeah, those moments when something just feels off, like you're not comfortable or like you've hit a wall. She says those are your higher self trying to tell you to get back on course.
That actually makes a lot of sense because we've all had those times where something feels wrong, but then we ignore it or explain it away, right?
Exactly. And that's where, really connecting with your higher self becomes so powerful because if you can tap into that, you're getting pure, unfiltered guidance. And Restored, as a lightworker mentor, that's part of what she does. She helps people connect with their higher selves directly.
Wow, that's pretty wild when you think about it. So we've got these practical things we can do to strengthen that connection. And then the possibility of actually receiving guidance directly from, like, that part of ourselves.
Okay.
Now, I'm wondering how Rudolf Steiner's perspective, coming from anthroposophy, fits into all this.
Steiner, his approach comes from anthroposophy, which is kind of like this blend of spiritual insights with philosophy and even science. It's fascinating, really. And he saw the higher self as this, well, advanced spiritual self, you could say, something that goes beyond our everyday ego and connects us to, something much, much bigger than ourselves.
So not just about us growing as individuals, but maybe even tapping into like a universal consciousness.
Yeah, that's definitely a big part of how Steiner saw it. He actually connected the higher self to what he called Christ consciousness, which is this archetype of the awakened self that he believed was inside every single one of us. So it's about recognizing that divine spark, I guess you could call it, within each of us, and then like striving to evolve spiritually, and not just as separate people, but as part of this interconnected whole.
That's a pretty powerful idea. And even though Steiner uses different language than the others we've talked about, it seems like there's this common theme of recognizing this wiser, more connected part of ourselves.
Absolutely. And whether we call it our higher self or our inner compass, or we connect it to, like you said, this universal consciousness, the main point is we have access to something way beyond what our limited minds can grasp. It's about learning to listen, to quiet all the noise around us, and to actually trust that inner wisdom.
Trusting that inner wisdom, I think that's a really great takeaway from all of this. And, our deep dive here has been just a taste, really. It seems like the real journey is when we take all of this and we start to explore these practices and insights ourselves.
Totally agree. And the good news is there's a ton of information out there for anyone who wants to learn more.
Definitely. We'll make sure to include references to all the sources we talked about in the description, so be sure to check those out if you're ready to start exploring your own higher self. Thanks for joining us on this awesome deep dive.